never, the first solution was only an attempt to do a permanent solution, and it failed. The intended permanent solution was what we're doing now. When I say we, I'm talking about collectively, because it's not me, it's not health and safety executive, it's the drilling company, the builders, the people that commission the work. They are putting into action now what would have been done if the packer had been available at an earlier point, but it wasn't. It was available through a procurement process which was originally going to take between 4 and 6 weeks. And that process, in the interim, the company that was involved at the time, not the one that's doing it now, thought that they might be able to do something using a, I'm just trying to think of the right description of it. We'll call it a foam packer, for the want of a better description. It's not that, and the word actually has just slipped my mind. They tried to do it that way, and that was their right, for them to make that right, to try and make it right. There's nothing that we could have done to stop them unless we actually thought it was dangerous, and it wasn't necessarily dangerous. The unintended consequences of that, which nobody was aware of, was the fact that this grout has been then contained within the borehole, and other circumstances have made that situation deteriorate. So the permanent solution was never what happened. And yeah, there are lessons to learn through that, through the investigation, and we will deal with that. And if there's found to be breaches of legislation, we'll take the relevant enforcement action. I can't say more than that in terms of investigation. Yeah, please do.
Yeah, this is just speculation on my part, but, you know, we're talking about a 5-6 weeks delay at the beginning of July. That would take us through sometime in August. Job would have been done and dusted if it waited. My speculation is time is money. There's a drill company on site that could be drilling a hole somewhere else. Yeah. And they decide to cut corners and, you know, botch it, I think is the word I'd use, but that's just my speculation.
Oh, okay, no, that's fine, and I understand that, and I won't comment on it being a botched job. I don't think that was the intention. I think it was a genuine attempt to do something to try and resolve the situation. It hasn't worked. They were perfectly within the rights to do that, and even following that, the gas was venting in a safe manner, and people can, you know, attest to that. Even quite recently, I asked the question myself, what are the gas levels at Bedford? Because I hadn't heard anything, and I was given the reassurance that the gas levels were doing exactly what they were previously. There was no problems with it, and the permanent solution was being sought, as was this other drilling company who have taken over the operation. Does that address your question? Thank you.
I'm just going to ask Craig to deal with the other part of your question, is about what's our responsibilities as the local authority.
Thank you, Laura. So you're quite right, sir, that the health and safety is split between local authorities and the HSE. The letter that you referred to wasn't relating to health and safety, as in the Health and Safety at Work Act or the enforcement of it. It was done, as we are here today, on behalf of the Local Resilience Forum. So it was a combination that was there. It was just pulled together by that particular officer. So no, the local authority isn't the enforcing authority, and that letter is not a health and safety letter. It's to do with the Local Resilience Forum response.
Thanks, Craig. The lady in, I think, a green cardigan.
Thank you. My name's Ruth, if that helps. So we might be doing this again, so maybe names are useful. So 2 questions. Firstly, Fireworks, that has been mentioned once or twice, and we've had no particular comment this evening, so I would appreciate one, whether there's a risk, what that risk is, and what action might need to be taken. That's the first thing. And the second thing, Paul, you referenced at the beginning of your presentation that you removed a drill bit. Was that left there from July? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to hand over to Jim to deal with the fireworks issue, and then we'll move to Paul.
Hello, Ruth. Fireworks, obviously, it's an ignition source. As you well know, the levels of gas, in the Cleat Hill area are constantly fluctuating. Hopefully, by the time we get to for fireworks night, we'll have a resolution to the way that the gas is leaking. Hopefully, if not, like I say, what we can do is look to, we'll put out communications from a fire and rescue point of view about as we always do, the safe use of fireworks. I think we'll have a conversation with the HSE tonight about other methods that we might be able to put in place as a control measure around the particular area. But given the levels of gas that we're currently reading, it is a negligible risk at the moment.
Craig is also going to pick up on the fireworks issues.
Yeah, I think it probably does. I do apologise, Paul, for just putting in there. So, from a firework perspective, we have a group within the local authority. All authorities have them. They're called safety advisory groups. We call it an event advisory group for our own purposes. And it covers all those kind of larger events that we will know about, that we do get to know about. It isn't just local authority people. There's people from the police. There's people from varied fire. There's a wide range of different people or organisations on that. I know you have your WhatsApp group. We've been setting up our own WhatsApp group, and my officers that have been there working with you have been those officers that work in health and safety, that work in environmental health and so on and so forth, and they have already been picking up these points, and then we've been going out and dealing with them where we can. It's very difficult, isn't it, when somebody just sets off a firework just in the back garden, or knowing where they are, and that so on. But I do think what Jim said there, we'll get some comms out again about that, despite the fact that the risk is minimal. But we will move forward on that. Sorry. You've got a question there, sorry.
Just to say that Beds Fire put out the Facebook post today saying to avoid fireworks in the Cleat Hill area.
Okay. All right. Okay, so thank you very much.
Paul, do you want to pick up on the drill bit issue?
Ruth, I'm just going to check with you about what I said. So what I was referring to with the drill bit was, currently the drill bit is down the hole. It's at 66 metres. When I was explaining about removing the drill bit, when the gas is back into formation, pocket, and we've got that controlled by the mud weight, at that point, the drilling company will retract the drill bit, take it out, and they have to individually take off the drill pipes, the stands, and break them out at each section, and then rebuild it with the packet on the end of that to get it back into the hole. So that's what I was referring to about taking the drill bit out of the hole. But one thing that you've made me reflect, one thing that we have got from the original incident is the original piece of kit that was on top of the borehole with the restriction in, and we may be able to glean some stuff from that. So we are taking that to our laboratory in Buxton at some point, and we'll get that analysed. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Right, I think the roving mic then come forward a couple of rows. So, so the fourth row on this side and fourth and fifth on this side. So any questions? So I know this is where it gets difficult, isn't it? So, gentleman in the check shirt.
Thanks. Paul, you again, I'm afraid. You might want to stay up there, mate. I think you might have a few questions. A lot of us are trying to make informed decisions about what we're going to do for the next week, 2 weeks, month, in terms of accommodation, yada, 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 medical support. Your presentation was very useful in terms of the detail of what's going to have to be done, but it did strike me that there's still a lot of work to do, and this could be quite a protracted process. You've got to get the permanent solution in place, make sure that's stable, then you've got to backfill with concrete to the surface. That's got to stabilise, harden, whatever. You've got to do further testing. From your personal experience, can you give us a feel for the length of time that you think is reasonable for us to use as a planning horizon before we might get back into our homes? Is that the question? Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
John Parrott, number 25, Wagstaffe Close.
So, John, thank you for the question. It's a good one. I honestly, if I could give you an answer that was definitive, I would.
Ballpark, based on experience of...
So given where we are, the next day or two will be key to helping us to give you that more medium-term answer. We've got to get this integral part of the borehole sorted with the drilling company, get that in, test it, etc. And if the gas stays where it's supposed to be, then we'll be able to very quickly give you some more structured timelines to it. I could say it will take X amount of days if everything went perfectly. If it doesn't, it's unknown, because we may have to go to, real contingency, real oil and gas drilling techniques, which are not quick fixes.
Okay. Thank you for that. I have one other very quick question, and it's for the police officer. You said that you're maintaining police presence to maintain the cordon. Are the private security patrols still in place to protect the properties backing onto the golf course?
I think Craig will actually answer that, because it's the council that's commissioned that.
Fair enough, yeah.
A quick one, yeah. Yes, it will. Yeah, they're still there, and that will continue until you guys get back to your properties.
Thank you.
Is that for listening what shall I say?
Peter Hedge, Wagstaffe Close. Our house backs onto the brook, which then goes onto your Beds County Council yard. What protection have we got, having seen kids, young teenagers, up and down that brook? They could come straight over our fence, straight into our house. Nobody would be looking there, because nobody theoretically can get into my back garden because I've got it locked. So there's no protection there, as I know of, when I visited it on Sunday. So, the golf course is open, we're open as well.
Sure. Well, I'll get that checked to make sure that it's put onto it, which is what we've done to enhance what the police are offering in other areas. So we'll look at that. Okay.
Picking up on that, we went to our property yesterday, and they asked us to leave our keys with them. I wasn't confident of leaving my keys, and we were told that they'd leave the keys in the doors. I didn't leave my keys, but again, as raised here, concerned about the security. Why is that really needed?
I can't answer that for you at this point in time, but I can find an answer and get back to you. Okay.
Sorry, building on that, for those of us who have left our keys and our homes are open, and there's been a lot of traffic in and out of the homes as a result. And before I continue, let me say thank you wholeheartedly for giving us access. I hadn't seen my house in over a week. And I was running short on things. So we were really very grateful to you, you know, for accommodating us. But it was very difficult to see the drive and everything within. What happens next? Because even if I get access to my home permanently tomorrow, I can't just move in and continue as with business as usual, you know, we just can't. So what happens there?
Okay, so from the keys perspective and security, I'll take that on board and I'll get somebody to look at that, and we'll get those communications about the security just generally, okay? So we'll cover that. In terms of what happens next, well, I suppose it does depend on, you know, when as well, when that will happen. But it comes down to, I suppose, what the needs are in terms of, so for yours, I know you have to speak into Harold, you know, your drive's always dug up, wasn't it, and all sorts of stuff. So in terms of your property and in relation to what, you know, your issues are, I think they're going to be different to some other people's. So I think, again, if you recall in the first evening, I did say we'll have to look at the needs of everybody in terms of they've got their own set of circumstances. But we would work through those depending on where they are and look at those once we start to get an idea of where we're going with all the technical work that's been done by the HSE. And we'd be working on it, we won't be just waiting for that to happen. We'll be looking at that to see what we can do for individual properties. So did that answer your question okay? Or? Okay.
Thank you, Craig.
Lady's got her hand up there. I'm assuming it's to me again.
You said the responsibility was for the borehole and building company. So is it them who are going to look at compensating us for the negligence? And if it goes on, it can be forgotten about. So isn't it something to deal with now?
It's beyond me to be able to answer that one, I must admit, personally, in terms of what your options are from that side. I'm going to share with you.
So I think that picks up on the points that Richard made earlier around we are talking to, well, Richard's talking to government ministers, we are talking to government officials about what happens in this circumstance and how we will be able to support you as homeowners into the future. So we can't answer those questions yet, but we are continuing to raise that this is a long-term, this is an issue that you need answers to. And that actually you will need those so that you can start planning and thinking through what happens to your homes and what you want to do in the future. But we can't answer that today. But it is absolutely one of the key questions that you asked us last time, and we haven't been able to give you answers to as yet. But it is really high on all of the partners' agenda, and I know that Richard is raising that point. And we'll continue to do that. I think you were also hoping to raise a question in Parliament at some point. I'm getting a nod. Okay, so Joe, can you come forward to the guy in the checked shirt, John? Are there any questions along this road? Thank you. In the blue top. But you can give us your name.
Can you hear me okay, yeah?
Absolutely.
Rob Sherratt from 12 Glenrose Avenue. I'm asking a question of the guy on the screen whose name I forget. Is it Chris?
Yes.
Yeah. Chris, I'd be interested to know from your experience whether, although we've never had a similar event like this, I'm sure from an insurance perspective, there certainly won't be many. What I'm keen to try and understand is, going forward, what would the impact likely to be on generally insurance premiums for our houses? Would there be exclusions for similar type events occurring? And that kind of aspect that I'm trying to find out, and whether or not there would be any insurers that would actually sort of be prepared to insure us going forward.
Thanks, Rob. Chris, did you pick that all up?
Yeah, that came through fine. No, thank you very much for the question, and I completely understand where you're coming from. So from an insurer's perspective, sort of where there have been claims, then that is something that may be taken into consideration when offering cover and deciding on premium rate when renewal takes place. So the best advice we can give on that is kind of following a claim and following this incident is to kind of engage with your insurance renewal process probably a little bit earlier than you might have done in the past. And also kind of think about potentially speaking with a broker if that's required. And kind of our normal advice that we would give as the ABI about the importance of kind of shopping around, using comparison websites and looking around at the market. But that's about as much information I can give at this stage. Insurers will take kind of commercial decisions based on their own risk appetite in an area, and really it's too early to say about kind of what the impact might be longer term on whether cover would be offered. But it is a very competitive home insurance market. Unfortunately, we have seen incidents like this in other areas where cover is still very much available following the incident. So that's kind of information I can give at the moment. Hopefully that provides some reassurance, but if it's helpful to kind of follow up, very happy to as well.
Thank you, Chris. I think, Rob, that is an issue, again, that I think is probably that discussion with individual insurers, and also I think, Chris, you're happy to provide more advice on some of those issues.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I've got, if we can come forward, Joe, got the guy with his hand up with the black top Nike. This is also pushing my description of clothes that you can tell now. Yeah.
Yeah, hello, Ben from 3 Glenrose Avenue. Just a quick question, just about the gas, of how much is actually there. Have you worked out how much there is actually there to vent out? And if this process doesn't work and they go, right, we're just going to vent it, how long will that take, considering that it's been a vent there for a couple of months now and that trying to vent it out daily? I'm just trying to think of how much there is actually there and how long that process might take if that is the only option.
I'm going to hand over to Paul.
Yeah. I'm not dodging this answer because it isn't for me personally. This one is for BGS. So in terms of what might be below the surface, geologically, they are looking at that. And what I talked about earlier, chromatography, etc., and the levels, they're mapping all of that information. We may never know what's down there. All we know is we've got to contain it, get it back there, seal it off to provide a permanent solution. So we can tell you what's come out of the hole because we know what kind of velocities it's coming out and at what pressures. So we can tell you what's gone. We can't tell you what's down there because it's unknown to us. Does that help? I know so we don't know. It could go on and on. It might have stopped while we're in this meeting.
And with the British Geological Survey, if they're mapping this, there's no way that they'd be able to give some kind of quantity. Like, if you go, I presume, if you go and find an oil well or a gas well in the North Sea, they know what they're going to drill for. They know how much is there. How come this can't be done for someone's back garden where they've gone down?
It can be done, and I did give that answer. So, for example, doing seismic surveys, drilling other holes in and around the area, which is probably not a good idea in these circumstances. That's how you determine how much is in there. And anybody that knows anything about oil and gas exploration, it's very difficult, it's very costly, it takes time, years, it takes a lot of time to develop it, to prove those reserves. And in these circumstances, the best solution at this moment in time is to get it back into formation, get it back into the pocket, seal it, cement it back to surface so that we've got a better, more competent rock strength than what is other than that first part of the borehole. So it's going all the way back to surface.
Paul, while you're standing there though, so you've talked several times about going back into formation. So do you just want to talk, I'm assuming that that's kind of putting it back where it should be. Is that what you mean?
It is. I'm calling it formation because obviously this gas has been laid there for thousands of years. The gas formations usually come about where there's a cap rock So something that's competent to hold the gas in, and it's the decay of carboniferous materials. So wood, etc., from the past that's been underwater, it's been compressed, it's decayed, it breaks down into either oil, really sludgy material, or into gas, or into a combination of the two, which is known as condensate. We've got gas. So this has been under extreme pressure for many years. It's been released, and now we've got to get it back where it needs to be and seal it. Yep, go for it.
From that, yeah.
No, you don't have to, please.
Just with that, and I suppose this is probably to the council, once this is sorted, and obviously word gets out that there could be a lot of natural gas down there, it's definitely not, we're not going to have any commerce coming along in 10 years' time and going, oh, there's a lot of money down there, and we're going to start. Is that council? You definitely?
Ben, I don't think that one was for me.
Again, quite simple. No, I don't think so. Do you? No, same here. No, I can't see that. I really can't. And we have to remember that this isn't the middle of the North Sea. This is a residential area, and this needs to be treated in that way. What we really need is some regulation that will enable this to be controlled correctly, this sort of operation, in my view. That's what my personal view is. But then again, I would be able to say that I'm responsible for planning and environmental health and safety. I am a regulator by profession. But from my perspective, that's what's important here, that we need to have, but that's a change. See somebody at the back there? I'm assuming it's me.
Getting out of my...
Sorry, just a quickie. Is there any stop on the installation of ground source heat pumps in this area at this point in time?
Yeah, not in regards to it, we can't stop them. We can't stop them in terms of from a regulatory perspective. We can certainly, speak, to the companies that are out there, but it's about what regulation there is to be able to stop that. It's permitted development, so it is. But we are putting, going out there and speaking with companies that we can. Laura has spoken to certain agencies and so on to be able to say, what do we do about this? But it's a permitted development, as it is.
So just to pick up on that point, so there are certain things that people can do in their own property that are called permitted development. So they are allowed to do it. One of the things that I think you've been asked, I'm going to point at you. Christina's been asking around is that there is an association of installers of these type of measures, and also talking to them. So we do need to ask them some questions as well. So there is quite a lot of things that we are doing to get more information, but taking away a permitted development right is not something that we can do. Again, I would say that that's something Richard will be asking questions about as well. Okay, so Joe, can you come this way? So we've got the guy in the blue top. I think you had your hand up, didn't you? Yeah. No, I didn't. Okay, all right.
So I'm Graham from 21 Glenrose. When the borehole was blocked, I think Paul said it prevented the gas from escaping vertically and it moved horizontally. Tonight you've been saying about pushing the gas back into the borehole and sealing it off. Simple question, what will happen to the gas that has escaped horizontally? Will it simply dissipate, or do we not know at this stage?
Graham, yeah, really good question, and that's the reason BGS and Cadence are doing what they're doing. We've got subsurface, so down to a metre into the soil, in and around the area, around the cordon, and they are taking samples from that to determine what the composition of the gas is, what quantities are there, at what pressure, what flow rates are there, i.e. flux, and building up that big picture of the whole area. And the reason that the levels are dropping now is that the borehole has had that blockage cleared, so the drill's gone through, and it's now freely venting. And if you went to site this morning or yesterday, you can hear it, you can physically hear it venting. That's the rate that's happening. And so the surrounding areas are dropping. The borehole, because it's got a free flow pattern, that's where the gas is going. It's taking its easiest route. The reason for going deep is to get to the competent ground, to get the seal there, to prevent the gas getting anywhere near that surface level soil formations that might allow it to permeate into households. Yeah? Okay.
So Paul, just over time then, the gas that's in the soil that's gone that way, will that also, it'll try and make its way out into open air, yeah?
So methane, lighter than air, therefore it rises to surface, and it just naturally dissipates in the atmosphere, and that's what's happening now.
So the information that we get from the survey from the Geological Society will, I guess, go some way to determining when we can actually, once it's sealed, get back into our homes.
Exactly.
And that's why they're doing it over a...
Yeah, and that's why you've been able to return to your homes, to collect your belongings, collect the things that you need immediately, so that, because the decay is there, and part of the monitoring, for example, is checking in cavities and in roofs and in insulation, all the places that you think gas wouldn't get, but it does. And that's where they find the ignition sources. So we have to be that vigilant to make sure that it is down to safe levels. And if we start at ground level and get the confidence there, we can then go into the properties and work around them.
Okay, thank you.
Did we have another question on that row? Nope. Okay. So I'm going to go over here. Another check shirt.
Blue, brown and grey. Thank you. My question was partly or nearly fully answered just a few minutes ago, but I was wondering, does anyone know if there's such a thing as a methane detector for households? Much like the old carbon monoxide detector powered by batteries sitting around your homes. Is there such a thing, or will it not be necessary?
So I think we've had this question and we said we would come back to you. So apologies for...
My apologies.
But no, that's quite right. But are you going to pick it up or yeah? Paul? Yeah.
I'll hand over to you afterwards, Jim, so make sure what I'm telling you. Yeah, so my background is in mining engineering, coal mines, mechanical engineer in mines for 30 years, so worked in potentially explosive atmospheres every day of my life. In that period, obviously, not prior to. And we carried personal detectors with us when we needed to. So yes, there are detectors that can be utilised, but you've got to be trained, competent, know how to use them. You need probes, you need things to be able to get into those areas that are difficult to reach. And the permanent answer is you will not need them. We need to get it controlled properly, seal it off permanently. It's been down there for thousands of years. We need to get it back where it belongs and control it properly. And Jim will tell you that CO monitoring, I'm not going to put words into his mouth, they're good for an indication. Methane monitoring, you need to do it and keep it going. You can get continuous monitors that read out all the time, but it should not be needed in these circumstances.
Okay, so I have a comment. So we're picking up some comments online. So comment from you, Chima, online, really about, with due respect, fireworks should not be allowed at all anywhere near the area. So that picks up on that. That is a further comment on that particular issue. And then My guess at the name of the Ground Source Heat Pump Association, that's its official title, and Ken Gordon is actually online. And I think, Ken, I am hoping that for a future meeting, you might be happy to come along and talk a bit more about ground source heat pump and what the association does and how you work in the industry, and give us a view about this incident. If you could just put a little note in the chat, that would be really helpful. Thank you. So Joe is going to move forward. Last two rows. So lady in the beige top.
Hi, I'm Julie Abbott from 18 Wagstaffe Close, and it's a question that goes back to Paul. Paul, you said that you actually asked for how's things going with the monitoring at Wagstaffe Close, and you were understood to be told that the gas levels were safe. My question is, who was taking the readings and how were they known to be competent in the readings that they were taking?
It was a combination of both the building contractor and the drilling company, who are well versed in taking these kind of readings, so they're taking them in the immediate vicinity of the drill rig and also from the property vicinity as well. Cadent were doing some readings. That was the information that I've got to date. The investigation will obviously deal in a lot more detail as to what those actually were and how what the veracity of them are. So hopefully that answers your question. Thank you.
Gentleman in the stripy, Fred Perry.
Sure, my name's Joe. I'm from 30 Wagstaffe Close. My question is about the, I believe they were going to put a camera down the drill hole, and I guess that's not possible anymore with the mud in place. So I'm presuming, therefore, that when you push the bung down, it's going to be much more difficult to determine exactly where that needs to go. So I guess it adds more risk to the solution.
Paul, do you want to pick that up?
Joe, yeah, it's a really valid point. The camera solution may not be available to us, but that doesn't stop the operation going forward. So as the drill bit is going through, it's cleaning, it's reaming, the mud or the fluid actually transfers the cuttings back up. So it's doing a clean out run to get it back to the bore diameter that's required for the plug. And then the depth can be worked out from the number of drill rods of known length and datum that are very accurate, you know, very little room for error. But we've got also from the logs that were done previously when the hole was first bored, some more information from that helps us to position that plug.
Thank you. So we've got a couple on this side, please, Joe. Ray?
Hi, it's Ray McCauley, 28 Wagstaffe. So I've been giving some thought to, obviously, the catastrophic partial blockage of the abandoned borehole. Have we established, obviously, the borehole was closed, so nobody could really look down it when it was venting off. And have we established whether any consideration was given to the possible deterioration of the integrity of the soil in the unlined borehole? Because I understand it's lined with maybe a steel casing for about 4 or 5 metres, but the whole rest of it is not lined, I understand. I just wondered whether the contractor, David Russell Bespoke Builders, Nichols, or Drillcore, I think it's Drillcore, the new company, I understand. I don't know whether something's fallen between the gaps, so to speak, as Nichols was stood down and Drillcore were brought on. But David Russell, a general builder, they're obviously relying on their experts. I just feel somehow maybe, well, I don't know whether you've established whether any consideration was given to that risk of, you know, rainfall conditions changing the integrity of the drilled borehole.
Yeah, that's one that will be determined by investigation. So it will be a question that will be asked to determine what consideration was given to running back into the hole with the drill rig at any point in time to check the integrity of the borehole and see if there'd been any change in circumstances. So yeah, I won't speculate on the answer.
Hi, I'm Angelo from 8 Glenrose Avenue. My question is for Chris, insurance question. Just thinking kind of in the future, normally insurance policies, you need to let them know if like your house is empty for 30, 45 days, wherever it may be. How does that kind of change when you've been forced out? Do you need to let your insurer know, or how do you go about that?
So I would recommend getting in contact with your insurer and making them aware of the situation. As I say, insurers will take a case-by-case basis and look at what support might be available and note the situation. And will also be following up with the council. Let me come back to you with any more specific information I can provide there, which I can feed back into the council if that's okay. But would recommend speaking to your insurer, and they will be able to kind of support there, and will be monitoring the incident and when they're able to kind of get access to properties where inspections might need to take place. So yeah, let me come back to you with any more information I can provide on that though.
So I'm only thinking like it's going to get colder. I'm guessing some people don't have their heating on, maybe thinking they're not there. Burst pipe, do you know what I mean? Like if something like that happens, where do we stand from insurance? Surely it'd be null and void, right?
I mean, again, escape of water should be covered as standard as part of most home insurance policies. But again, I can provide more information on how that would be treated. We have a property committee of members, so let me ask that question to them of exactly kind of for this instance how that would be supported, and I can come back.
Thank you, Chris. Christina?
Just before I'm going to ask Paul a few questions, are we able to follow up on the Q&A session from last week where there was some takeaways?
Yes.
And it would be helpful for everybody in this room on those questions and answers that were done last week for it to be on an Excel spreadsheet. This was the question, this is the answer. Even if it is, we haven't got an answer as yet. But at the minute, all we're doing is duplicating some of the questions because those are not, but you're given a lovely presentation, which is fantastic. But we need to say what the questions are being answered and what's still outstanding.
Okay, we will pick that up. Christina, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sorry. So this is for Paul. So I've been speaking to an oil and gas professional with extensive drilling experience. So the borehole was not intended for exploration of oil and gas, yet on the 2nd of July, a blowout of methane occurred. As hydrocarbons were coming from the hole, it's clearly a gas well and should be treated as such. All blowouts must be reported to HSE urgently. Do you know when this happened?
So, Christina, if your question is, was it reported to HSE as a blowout? Yeah. Yes is the answer.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, on the incident date, local resilience forum was brought together, convened, and then I believe it was within 24 hours, the local resilience forum contacted myself or contacted HSE for advice and support into the incident. And at that, I attended Strategic Command Group, and inspectors were deployed to site as well, and RIDOR, so reporting of injuries, diseases and dangerous occurrence regulations, of which blowout is one of those such dangerous occurrence, was reported.
Okay. Why has a blowout been uncontrolled in a residential area for a third of a year when offshore, in the oil and gas industry, this would not be allowed and would likely lead to a suspension of drilling licenses?
Yeah, the person asking the question needs to understand the context of geothermal drilling. Geothermal drilling is typically done open hole in these circumstances with the necessary equipment to deal with anything that's encountered. And when the gas was encountered, it was unexpected and they hadn't got that kind of equipment available to isolate it. So the safest way of dealing with the gas is to vent it to atmosphere, dilute it, and then obtain the required equipment to do what we are in the process of doing now.
Okay, nearly there. Have any companies with experience in oil and gas exploration been approached to sort the problem?
Yes.
Okay, and just to point out, in the oil and gas exploration, shallow gas is considered very dangerous and often has a high hydrogen sulfide concentration.
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah.
Could you use the microphone a bit closer because they're not picking up online?
Yeah, sure. So just to point out, in the oil and gas exploration, shallow gas is considered very dangerous and often has a high hydrogen sulfide concentration.
Yeah, there's no hydrogen sulfide in there, so yeah, that's a fact that it is a consideration, but shallow gas is a consideration for drilling these types of holes. And that's why the drilling contractor obtains the information from British Geological Society and from any other offset wells in the area, data from that to do their own due diligence before commencing operations. Thank you.
Can I just, the lady here has been waiting to ask a question.
No, it's okay. Well, sorry. Thank you. No, it's just a quick question. Again, sorry for Paul. Was the British Geological Survey involved from July? I couldn't quite understand, because they were. So were they measuring the soil as well with, like you were saying before? Like, so what's happening now, obviously, to see if it's safe to return? My question is, was that done before in July?
The BGS were involved at that time and were taking measurements, specifically to what depth the same kind of array that's being used now has been set up on a more semi-permanent basis to enable them to take the readings more quickly. What they were doing back in July is actually physically taking a probe, measuring and moving around the place to get the readings. And since then, they've now got this bespoke arrangement. Yeah, I viewed it today on site and it's working very effectively.
Thank you. Lady in the beige top again, Julie.
Well, Paul, you'll be pleased to know it's not a question for you. It's for Chris Rumsey. Chris, some people will be imminent in having to renew their insurances, and they must be quivering at the moment. You've told us that we need to get in touch with our insurers, which we will do. But I've actually got another situation, and my situation is that we're going to be out of our property, nothing to do with this. We're going to be out of our property for more than 30 days. So each time we do that, we have to get out a new insurance. And clearly, I'm going to have to tell them the situation that we're in. And my worry is that they won't want to insure us.
Chris, did you pick that up?
It cut out a little bit. I think I can't comment too much on the individual case, but as you're doing, speaking with the insurer directly, it is important. And if you'd like to leave sort of some further detail with the council, kind of on that case, and they're an ABI member, I'm happy to follow up with them directly as well.
Well, I think he won't be able to give you specific advice.
I understand that. But the specific, Chris, is that you don't, like our own insurers won't insure that type of insurance. So you have to go to a different insurer that specialises in insurance that goes on for more than 30 days. And so that was my worry, is that we will be going to a totally different insurer And I guess it's similar to questions earlier, but that may be difficult because it's a very specific type of insurance.
So it's a specialist product.
It's a specialist, yeah.
when
it's
you're
for leaving the house for more than 30 days.
Chris, is that something that you'd be able to just do a quick follow-up on?
Yes, absolutely. No, very happy to follow up on that.
Thank you. So we've had, moving down the room, lots of questions. Are there any final questions before we sum up? No? Okay, so, oh, yeah.
Keith Gold up 7 Glenrose Avenue. White hair and getting whiter. I would like to ask Paul, I'm afraid, when you're considering the actual borehole drilling and the type of material that you're going to be drilling through, is there any consideration as to whether you fully line the hole, or as you've done in this case, I think it's just a few metres or a couple of feet? I know it's clever to be after the event, you know, when there's been blockages and things, but it does seem quite a critical point, really, because that must have had some effect in terms of the material that it was going through.
Yeah. So again, really good question, Keith, and it's well thought through because the short answer is the most exposed piece of hole is at the top. So that's put in some pipe down to about 3-4 metres. If it was more fragile and it broke up more readily, then yes, absolutely, they would put more material down to where they can get the drill established properly and make sure it's not collapsing in on them. And geothermal holes when they're drilled, and again, this is something to pick up with the geothermal specialists, but I can comment on this myself. It is open hole, and then polyethylene pipe is run up and down the open hole, and then the hole is filled with pea gravel. So you've got thermal conductivity, the heat stays in the pipe, it's picked up down at source, and then the heat is brought back to surface. So you can see it's an insulation. But yes, it could be considered to steel line the whole of the hole from surface to underground in the appropriate circumstances. And just by way of contingency, that could be one of the measures that we might need to go to in the future, or the drilling company need to go to in the future, if the immediate things that are happening now were proven to be unsuccessful. But yeah, good question. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've had quite... No, you can ask the final question, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously, like, once the investigation's all finished and we've done what we had to do, does this then get registered with, like, land registry? So, for example, if we were to sell our houses, say, 2, 3, 4 years down the line, would this come up the same as, like, flooding would, or subsidence, or, I don't know, that's my question.
So at the moment, that's a good question. We're going to have to go back and take that back to Borough Hall, talk to our land charges team, and also get some further advice. So we'll log that one. Yeah. Okay, so I hope that you feel that you've had a good opportunity to ask your questions of our experts. We've broadened out our experts today to include insurance with Chris, so thank you very much. You've also had a bit of advice. Ian has been covering from public health through from UKHSA, and we've also got Ken Gordon, who is from the Ground Source Heat Pump Association, is also happy to come to a future meeting and give you a bit more of the advice and information around what the industry itself is saying. So he's confirmed, feels like semaphore at the moment, but he has also confirmed that he's happy to do that. one of the things I think we did a sense check for you at the end of the last meeting. So one of the things we'll take away is that we will do a kind of you asked, we said, and if we haven't been able to answer it, what we're doing is a follow through. That's a very sensible option, which we will look at and get on with. I think what we would like to talk to you about just before we close the meeting is there anything else that you would like us to be doing at these sessions, or any way that they think they could be improved? I already know that I would like a little number or letter down the side there, so I don't have to go. Oh, thanks, Charlie. So I don't have to go. So where are we with the roving mic? Is there anything else that you want from us at these meetings, or is the format that we've got at the moment? We're bringing some experts. They're telling you some of the things and where we are, and then you get an opportunity to ask questions. Does that work? Okay. My next question then is, last week you had 2 meetings, Monday and Thursday. Do you want to continue with that, or do you only want to have one once a week, possibly today? Yeah,
We're getting our questions answered, and I think even today, like 8:30, we're almost finished, right? So I think we could probably bring it down to 1, if everyone's happy with that, and do every Monday at 6:45, if that's okay.
Absolutely, we're in your hands. If you feel that you would like something, and obviously we'd have the option, if something particularly changes, we've got something that's a real update, but we are communicating with you in lots of ways, the text messages. We can bring people here, make use of the St Mark's Hub. We also have got opportunities to talk to you in a lot of different ways now. So if you're happy with that, we would then propose to do that again next Monday. No, you're going to test me because you did give me a name and I haven't got it. Oh. Hold on a minute so we can get the people online. Charlie's going to tell me something in a minute.
Yeah, I'm really happy once a week. It's really good. The only thing I'd say is this feels like a really big week. Paul, you referred to drilling and you'll know more in the next day or so. I think it would be really, really important to have an update, and it doesn't have to be a meeting, but I think probably in preference to the text messaging, to have some form of communication that really lays out what's happened and the next steps between now and next Monday, because it just does feel like such a big, big week, and I don't think I want to be kept in suspense for another 7 days.
So I don't think we would do that. I just think we were thinking about whether this format, and we can find some other way of communicating with you. Text messages, I think you're getting quite a lot of those. You're either getting them with our updates or also where we're contacting you about access to property. If we can think of another way of doing that, we will. And I'm looking at my comms team. Claire, can you have the microphone, Claire?
Sorry. So we've actually changed our text system. So we just want to make sure that you're all getting those. So I know my colleagues on the front desk have been asking you those questions. Once again, if you're not receiving them, please talk to my colleagues on the front desk. The reason we're doing text messages, I realise that some of you won't have WhatsApp, which obviously we can send longer form messages on. However, we have set up a bit of the website that only people with a specific link can open. It isn't Google searchable. And you have had that, I hope, already on a text message. So there is a page that is now live just for residents. We'll reshare that in the morning and I'll make sure that that happens. And that is the location that we will keep you updated. And hopefully with the idea about the full, this is the question, this is the answer, or this is the question we still need to answer, we can add them there. But we realise you don't all have access to your normal laptops and computers and email addresses, which is why we've not gone down the email route for you and felt that text messages were most appropriate. If you feel that that's different, we can look at sending you regular emails instead. But again, I recognise that a text message is immediate. You're not having to search, you're not having to look on your phones, etc. for that. whether an email has come, whereas a text message is direct to you, but equally happy to do whatever's best for residents here.
Thanks, Claire. It's a very helpful update. So, I think from that summary then, we will have... Oh. Hold on a minute.
Thank you. So just speaking to Charles Royden, we have a problem at St Mark's accommodating this meeting ongoing on a Monday.
Okay.
We had to displace people last week. We've managed it this week because the guides and brownies are on half term. Friday is the best evening for St Mark's. This room is empty on a Friday evening always, and obviously the live streaming can only come from here. So if it's a Monday, the borough will need to find another venue.
Okay, I'm sure we can have some discussions about what the options are. So you're suggesting a Friday, we could use in here, but I think it's probably have a look, and the tech support. So we'll have to think about that and then come back to you all around that. What are thoughts about a Friday? Oh, can I have a bit more affirmative? Yeah. Okay. So we'll have some further discussions with the team here at St Mark's and also our all of our partners around that. Okay. Hold on a minute. So that people online can hear.
I was only going to say that we're more dispersed now as a community. You know, we're not all so close to St Mark's, so the option of another venue is well worth looking at.
Okay, we will also have a look at that. But thank you for that feedback. So can I just say, as I said at the beginning, everything that we're doing at the moment is around safety. So I hope that you can see of all of the different agencies that are involved in this work, and that as well as you asking questions of us, we are also asking lots of questions of other people. Thank you also for your patience. And I know that it's also been some big moves this week in that you have now had access to your properties. The next stages is really the plan of what's happening in the borehole, and also us developing a longer term plan and thinking about the number of weeks to give you a bit more certainty. And I know that Craig has been working on that longer term plan, and also in some of the support that you'll need in that period. Hopefully, we might get some good news about what might happen when the next stage of the new term that we've all learnt tonight, heavy mud, or drilling mud as it's called, and what's happening in the borehole. So it's been really good to get your feedback directly to us. Really good the range of questions, and I hope you feel that we've been able to answer them. We will come back to you quickly about next meeting and location. So thank you everyone for tonight. And thank you for the panel as well, actually.